Okay, welcome everybody to PB Podcast number 4. We're flying through them. I'm your host Dustin with my co-host Cody Heyer from 𝐋𝐢𝐬𝒏𝒕𝒔. How you doing, Cody?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm good as well, just like last week. We're here. We've got a Christmas special. We're going to put together a short but hopefully detail, action-packed, good stuff-filled episode on the week of Christmas. Yeah. So as long as I can get my editing done, this will be ready for Monday morning. We first have an announcement, and then we'll get right into a paddle dissection and talk about the new paddles we've received. We don't have a community review this week, just because it's Christmas and whatnot, but we do have an announcement related to that. Cody, do you want to share our winner from the naming contest for the community paddle review portion?
Yeah, so the name, do you want to say the name?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so the winning name is The Court Report. So congratulations to @PickleList for suggesting that one. That was like I said, that was my favorite. So I'm happy about that.
Yeah, but real smug, I bet you are.
Not at all.
Thanks for contributing, everybody who contributed a name. @PickleList, we'll put our social media, Instagram, Facebook, whatever, in the details. Reach out to us there, and we'll get you hooked up with a free paddle. So thanks a lot. We'll be having Court Report, community member paddle reviews, coming next episode. And then again this week, so we put this together kind of fast. So I don't have a dissection ahead of time, but I will be cutting open as soon as Cody and I are done recording here. I'm going to do a double whammy dissection. So here we have 3 paddles, and some of them are easy to tell the difference of than the others.
Normal Can you spot the fake?
Yeah, normal, like legit Mod TA-15. We have the slightly less normal looking Mod TA-15, and then we have the Moo TA-15. So I ordered, I forget. Oh yeah, I ordered this one myself off Alibaba, and then I bought this one off of Facebook Marketplace, and he said that he got it from a trade who got it from AliExpress, but basically they're knockoff mods. Yeah, I don't know. Have you ever? Yeah, at this point, everybody's probably played against somebody who uses a like legit 𝐋𝐢𝐬 mod. Have you ever played with somebody who's used one of the knockoff mods?
Knockoff? I don't think so. At least if they were using it, I couldn't spot it at the time. But like, there's only been a few people who continuously use mods, and so there's not a whole lot of them at the courts. I don't think I've ever spotted a fake mod.
I think that I went a while without playing against somebody who had a knockoff mod, but there's somebody in my morning groups who plays with them, Sam. I don't know if he watches this or not, or if he's going to, but for those who've played against people who use mods and those who play against knockoffs, they clearly play different. I've played a little bit with each of these, and before we get into the dissection, which I'll add in later, I'll just say they're not at all the same. They're very different, actually. It's not just like buying a cheap version of the normal mod and playing with it and then just like being able to replace them. They're quite different. So I'll just share some numbers real quick. So I did went through the whole thing with like the swing weight, twist weight, whatever with these mods. So for the Moo mod, so it had a swing weight of 123, twist weight of 6.29, and I'll put these on the screen here because I'll share all 3. Gross weight of 8 ounces, balance point of 249, so a bit high, and a maneuverability score which ranks 1 to 100 plus, 100 being the heaviest, least maneuverable paddles. Takes a lot of things into account. The Moo scored a 70, so on the heavier side, which is not what the mods are known for, or most, Gen 3 EVA foam competitor paddles. And then in comparison, the non-Moo knockoff mod, the one that actually has like MOD on the cover, so that had a swing weight of 117, twist weight of 6.19, gross weight of 7.9, balance point of 245, and on the maneuverability score, it scored a 55, so lower. It's lighter, and I felt that way holding it in the hand too. Looking at them, they look very similar to the mod, and to the naked eye, clearly the mod has the normal mod has the white logo on the front. Neither of these have it, but they both say They both say USAPA approved on them, and funny enough, they both have that little symbol, like on the bottom there, that ball that Joola puts on that says, "Hey, scan the handle to register for your warranty." I
There's
haven't,
no way that either of those knockoffs
dude. Yeah,
have an RFID.
okay. I'll test that after this, and I'll just write it on screen if it worked or not. So I haven't tested it yet, but I don't think
Now,
it works, but.
For reference, what's the maneuverability score of the normal correct mod?
Yeah, good question. Right before we cracked them on, right before we started, I was looking around. I'll put it on screen here because I'm not sure, but I imagine it's probably lower than these two. I don't have it on hand, but I remember the swing weight of my mod. This one here was 116, so it at least starts lighter, and in the hand it feels quite a bit lighter. So I'll put it on screen for comparative purposes. But and then before the dissection, I'll say so. I played games with both of these knockoff mods, and they don't even feel like the mod at all. I wouldn't even be surprised if they weren't Gen 3. Like if I cut them open and I see one layer of foam instead of the double foam perimeter, I wouldn't be surprised at all. Like it didn't have an exponential power curve. The MOD knockoff mod, not the Moo mod. And when I came off the court, somebody was like, "What are you playing with?" Like that didn't feel like you were hitting a mod, which people know when they're playing against a mod, right?
Absolutely.
And then the MOD mod, the heavier one, it has kind of a more of a octagon shaped handle. Or I mean, sorry, not octagon, rectangle shaped handle compared to the other mod.
Okay.
The normal mod, but it plays a little bit closer to Gen 3, but it's just heavier, so a lot more force is required. But they don't play the same. So if you're expecting people who want to get the knockoffs and expect to get the benefit of the $250 whatever mod and just be able to replace them, you won't. Yeah, you won't.
Yeah, I see all the time there's like Selkirk available on AliExpress or Alibaba or whatever, and for a fifth of the price. And the only thing going through my head is there's no way that they're actually the same exact paddle. They can't be.
Yeah, so. I mean, they look close, but they're not. And I've hit a handful of knockoffs. I also have some 3S knockoffs from my buddy Chris. So thanks, Chris. At some point, we'll probably cut those open as well. But let's go ahead and, let's cut to the dissection for these and take a look inside. And let's do that now. Here we have the Joola Mod TA-15 and two knockoffs. On the left is the Moo mod, originally from AliExpress, and the other is a $35 knockoff from Alibaba on the right. As far as looks, they look pretty close from a distance, aside from the obviously lacking white Joola logo on the front of each of them, but the handle on the Moo mod is a bit more rectangular shaped than the legit Joola mod, and it's also a lot heavier feeling overall. The other Alibaba mod has a more similar feeling handle and weight perception, and though it's hard to tell over video, this knockoff mod is a little more square shaped on the top and bottom corners than the legit mod. I also thought it was funny to see the little NFC accessible logo on the front of the faces for each of them, and yeah, I bit and tried them out, but no, like you might imagine, they do not actually do anything. In addition to looks, they also sound very different from the legit mods, and I'll compare the sound of each of these to that of a new legit mod on the screen now. I used a little heat to pull the edge guard off of the Alibaba mod, but it also caused some serious separation between the face and the thermoformed edge of the paddle, so I did the other side without heat, and you can see the connection is still very thin and already separating at points. I experimented with using the jigsaw around the perimeter versus a handsaw to create a cut in the frontal plane, and the jigsaw was definitely more fun. Overall, the Alibaba mod was for sure the single most brittle paddle that I've ever cut open, and I followed the same process for the Moo mod, which was definitely a bit more sturdy overall. When you flip these open, you actually see 3 layers of foam around the perimeter, with one typical edgeguard-like foam layer, a more squishy layer in the middle, and another more hard edgeguard-like foam ring in the middle. This goes for both the Moo mod and the Alibaba mod, except the thickness of the foam layers in the Moo mod were much more hefty. If you want a good dissection video of the legit Joola mod, there are a few out there, including one by 𝐋𝐢𝐬, who was gracious enough to send me some pictures for comparative purposes, and with his permission, I'll share those with you now. You can see the 3-ring perimeter of the 2 knockoff mods looks nothing like the edge foam construction of the legit 2-ring Joola mod. It's also interesting to see that on the Moo mod, there was significant downward compression at the top of the honeycomb core, and you can see the inner foam ring is clearly split from the middle foam ring and taking a serpentine-like shape, suggesting that it may have been overfilled or gotten bunched up while trying to expand lengthwise in addition to its width. While the rings on the Alibaba mod are thinner, the middle ring appears more tightly adhered to the other 2 layers, and you don't see quite the amount of honeycomb compression that we saw with the Moo mod. It's also interesting that in the handles of these 2 paddles, the edge foam is different thicknesses on each side, and the Alibaba handle has a very thin layer on one side that doesn't even extend all the way down to the bottom of the handle, which did remind me that when I was using this paddle, the handle had a ton of flex, and as a person who's never broken a handle in gameplay, I felt like I could have easily broken this one off. So there you go, they may be similar on the outside, but these 2 paddles are very different from the brand name Joola mod on the inside, and they certainly play very differently too. And that brings the kill count of paddles dissected specifically for this podcast up to 6. We forgot earlier, but we were going to share our favorite Christmas traditions. Since it is Christmas week, and we want to spread the cheer. So why don't, Cody, you start? Share us with us your favorite Christmas tradition, and then we'll get into our paddles.
Sure. Yeah. So I kind of got adopted into it. It was my wife's family's tradition, but what we do is we go over to we all converge on one house and for like a brunch, and then we eat, and then we go and we all bring our presents. You know, you'll have your own individual little Christmas that you open up a few presents at your individual houses, and then we all come together. And then the 2 rules are, 1, you have to be wearing Christmas pajamas, and then 2 is you're only allowed to open a present if you're wearing an elf hat or like a Santa hat. So that way, and depending on how many people are there is how many hats there are, and it's just a way to make the opening of the presents take a little bit longer, and that way everybody is appreciating what you're getting. So, you know, if I gave you something, you're not opening it at the same time that I am, and then, you know, you can't appreciate the joy on their face type thing. So so I actually enjoyed that, and I think I might adopt that for like my own house for when my kids are starting to get a little bit older.
Dude, that's actually really good. So how many hats would you say you have versus how many people are there?
I think it's typically 1 hat per like 5 people is what the kind of rule of thumb is.
And you like that ratio? That works for you?
I think it works. And so whenever you like finish opening up your present, you go find another present, and then you bring that to the person with the hat.
You give the hat and the present.
Yeah.
Damn, dude. I like that. That's kind of the not the same line of my Christmas tradition I like, but I'm going to put that in my toolbox. I really like that. I might start doing that.
One that slight digression, and I'll try to keep it brief. My buddy told me about this. His Christmas tradition is his mom gets a massive roll of saran wrap. She uses the entire thing, and she makes a massive ball with it. And as she's rolling it up, she puts random presents in it or money or whatever, and everyone gets in a circle, and you have, say, 30 seconds to rip that ball open. Anything you get out in that 30 seconds, you get to keep, and it just goes around the room until everything's out. But it's just a massive ball of saran wrap that people are just trying to rip open.
Does it get better as you get like closer to the middle, or is it like the same throughout?
I think so. He didn't really go into the details, but it sounds really, really fun to me.
That's cool. I like that too.
Yeah.
It sounds like you've got
I'm
a
planning
whole
on using that
repertoire of Christmas traditions to draw from.
There's always more coming out that you see on Instagram or TikTok or whatever. So, yeah, there's some really good traditions.
The benefits of social media these days, I suppose.
Sure. What's yours?
So every year, so this is both a Christmas and Thanksgiving tradition, and it's been a little harder since we moved from Utah to North Carolina for med school, but we all get together at my grandma's house and we play all-night poker.
That sounds fun.
And we try and start early every year. It usually starts in like the afternoon, and it's like we usually do like a $10 buy-in. We play Texas Hold'em. and we usually say unlimited buy-ins. So when your money's gone, if you
Yeah.
so want to, you could just cash out to the bank and get $10 worth of chips, and that just like goes to the pot. So
Yeah.
it's kind of leads to like this infinite. Either you do good all night, or whoever buys in the most amount of times like wins all the money. But we go till like 4, 5, 6 in the morning the next
Oh,
day,
wow.
and it's a ton of fun. It's a ton of fun.
So I love poker, so that sounds like fun to me.
Yeah, so I've gotten okay at playing Texas Hold'em, and have not developed my other card skills. But that's my favorite. We do that on Christmas and Thanksgiving.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, it's a good time. So, okay, all right, man. Are we ready to? Let's see. I think we're ready for paddles now. Are we ready for more paddles?
I don't know. Yeah, we're ready for paddles.
Nobody wants
Let's
paddles.
get into it.
All right,
No one wants to.
let's
They just
get
want
into
to talk.
it.
They just want to hear us talk about traditions, right?
Yeah. Just keep going on around non pickleball stuff on the Pickleball podcast. Okay, so first we have the Pickleball Apes Pulse X. Currently on the market, we have the Pulse E, the Pulse S, and the Pulse V, which the Pulse E I cut open, so I don't have it anymore. But the Pulse S, which is the hybrid shape, the E is extra elongated. It's like 17 inches or something like that.
Yeah.
And then the V is the wide body shape. This has been like my main paddle for the most part since it came out. And then the X, which is this one, is coming out early this coming year, and it's a traditional elongated shape. So it's 16.5 inches and about 7. Let's see, where did I write down? And about 7.5 inches wide. And I measured it, and it's actually just a little bit shy of that. It's like 7.4 inches. But it's close. It's more to the traditional elongated shape. These are Gen 3 paddles, but different from other Gen 3s. They have 3 layers, actually, of foam in the perimeter. The inner and outer have carbon fiber tubules. The outer one is supposed to be fully enclosed. The inner one's kind of like more of a C shape. And you can watch our first podcast video where we cut it into one to look at that. But our swing weight numbers, twist weight numbers, all that on the Pulse X. Swing weight of 123, twist weight of 6.15, gross weight 8.2 ounces, which is about the same as all the other pulses, really. Balance point of 244, which is like somewhat typical of an elongated paddle. And on the maneuverability score, which 1 being the lowest, 100 plus being the highest, scored a 70, which is, again, pretty typical for an elongated shape paddle. It's not light, but for people who are used to using an elongated, paddle, it's probably right around normal. Yeah.
It'll be the same price as the other pulses, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so it's not due to be released until February.
Okay.
And it's going to have a list price of $200. The channel's PBMed discount code or whatever will take 10% off, so it'll be $180. The difference in the Pulse X that I have and the other pulses is that one problem they found, or explanation for the break-in period that we were experiencing with some of those first batches, was that those carbon fiber tubules, they would adhere them, they would wrap that ring, adhere them, and then just attach them right there, and then that ring would burst open. So the new batches and new iterations that they're thinking of doing are going to have more of an overlap on the wrap on those tubules, so that adherence point won't break open quite as much. And that's what they've done with this Pulse X. So the tubule itself is fully wrapped and enclosed with a little bit of extra layers, but otherwise no changes in construction. It's just the elongated shape with a more solid tubule.
Okay.
So the result of that is you probably won't experience that huge giant break-in like we saw with the V. But I will say, and I can't explain why. When out of the box, just even the first time playing with the X, I felt like it was more springy than the other models. It took a little bit of time for the V of mine, my Pulse V, to like break in and like compress more and recoil more. It always was great at vibration dampening, but to get that like extra little bounce, it took a little while. I don't know why, but right away the Pulse X kind of had a little bit of that. By far the most trampoline-y of all 3, and I wouldn't say it's like, it's not a rocket, it's not like a power Gen 3, but it has more of that, what you'd expect, like throw type force.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Interesting.
It's not ultra light. So I think, so this is the first iteration of it. If you follow the Discord much, you'll see that like Ivan is still taking some feedback on these. There's, to my knowledge, 3 of these that have been made. And while Ivan plays with mainly with the Pulse E that has a swing of like almost 130, I think a swing weight of 123 for this is a little high for most people. So talking to him right now over the last couple of days, he's actually at the factory, like overseas right now. And I'm like messaging him, talking about it, and they're like thinking of changes to make. So I assume when these hit the streets and when we get our next models, they're going to be lighter than this.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the consensus is that people would prefer a little lighter and weight up if they want.
Yeah.
But I like it. This is close to where I like my paddles. I usually weight them up even almost to like 130 on swing weight.
Okay.
And then I have to work a little bit less to like get power in, and it absorbs the ball a little more. But I really, really like this. And if the lighter versions play like the Pulse X, I would say it's probably going to be more popular than the Pulse V. I like this one better than the Pulse V, and the Pulse V has been my main paddle since it came out. It's so much better. It's so much easier on the power, but it still has that vibration dampening. Sweet spot is good. I think it could probably use just maybe like an ounce or two of lead to widen the sweet spot a little bit, but really, man, this is good. If they lower that swing weight a little bit, I think that it's going to be huge. But all in all,
bold statement.
Unfortunately, we have to wait.
Yeah.
Fortunately, we have to wait till he said a couple of months. The factories are like they shut down for a month for a break or whatever overseas, but that's the plan. Roughly 2-ish months from now, the X will hit the street. So we'll be back to report on the newer production level models. But so far, high power, high spin, absorption's really good. Just maybe a sliver on the head heavy side that most people are going to want to see be lower, and I think that's a change that we're going to see. But time will tell.
Yeah. Okay.
So.
Interesting. I'm very intrigued now.
Okay, this next one, I'm sorry to say our next one is another one that we're trying to get one to Cody, but it's taking longer, so we'll cover that when it gets there. But so far, I just have one of these. So this is the new ProKennex Black Ace 16. So this is one of the most interesting paddles that I've ever used, and certainly one of a kind. Have you hit with any of the ProKennex Ace paddles at this point?
I can't remember the shape name, the Max or whatever, of the Black Ace when it first came out, and my immediate thought was this thing is too powerful, too poppy for anybody to actually use. And then you know what? Here we are, like a year later, and everyone's going to even more power, more pop. So
that would be interesting. And I'll say this is not anything like that paddle. It's been a while since I've hit those, but this is not that. So first off, this comes in a standard shape. There are multiple iterations of this, by the way. There's a 14. There's some like slightly longer ones. I have the standard shape 16. And I'll do this real quick before I share the numbers. Tell me if you can hear this.
A little bit.
Fascinating. It's got these kinetic beads inside.
Yeah.
And you can even see them. There's like a hole. I'll put it on screen if it doesn't show up well, but there's a hole, a little like eyeglass in the bottom of the handle where you can actually, if you twist it, you can see the beads rolling, and they extend all the way from the handle up through the paddle face. So if you like tilt it, if you twist it, you can hear it move. Almost it sounds like it's like that sound like my Shogun makes. Which people hate this when like you use it a little bit and it gets that slight rattle up in the top. Have you had paddles that do that?
A couple where like the glue loosens up or something.
Yeah, it's like doesn't affect performance, but this is made, and it's like times 10 extreme. Yeah, and the idea is that it's supposed to be vibration dampening, that those kinetic beads absorb, the shock to go up your arm.
Is it just like one tube that goes all the way from the handle to the top of the?
Dude, that's a good question. I don't know. This would really be a fun one to cut open and see what is going on in here. It's supposed to go. It's my understanding, and I am very open to be corrected, and if this is wrong, I think the people that I got this from have gone on Christmas break, so nobody's messaging me back at this point. But I think they go up around the perimeter, and then down through the handle.
Okay.
Is my understanding.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, but so mine's a standard shape. I'll talk about how it plays in a minute. So it's in terms of its numbers. So swing weight of 104, twist weight of 6.31, gross weight 7.9 ounces. Its balance points was 232, so a lower balance point. All of those are telling me like this should be a light paddle. And then on the maneuverability score index, it scored a 22. Again, 1 meaning the most maneuverable paddles there is. So. And that matches. This is a very like easy paddle to move around. For 16 millimeters thick, like I would not expect a paddle to move around that fast. And it kind of almost reminds me of like a gearbox handle in the circumference type feel, like a gearbox or like a Neonic Flare Prime X where the handles are narrow. So it's just like incredibly easy to move around.
Nice. Okay.
And playing with it, I was like so intrigued. I was so excited to get out there. The first time I hit with it, it sounds aggressive. Like it's not paddle tech sound, but it's like getting up there to where I was like, I hit it, it makes a sound. I'm like, whoa, dang, this thing's gonna like blast. But it doesn't. There's almost like a sound pop inverse correlation, like an inverse match, right? It's because the pop is right off the face, but it absorbs that shock so much that it sounds aggressive, but it hits so soft. In terms of pop. Now it was easy to lever. I felt like I could drive really well with it. But most of that power was coming from me. I didn't feel like it was doing the work for me.
Interesting.
But the pop was low. I hit it on the same day as like the Pulse X, a couple other paddles. It was definitely like the least poppy paddle that I played with, but dang, dude. I will say the kinetic beads in their job of vibration dampening, like very good.
Works. Okay.
Very good. I haven't played with the 14 yet. The only thing I know about it is I saw that Kyle from the Pickleball Effect podcast, he was not a fan of the 14. I liked the 16, but he didn't like the 14, and I can see why. I think for a 16 millimeter paddle, even as is, it's kind of on that border of being like anything less than what it is, and it would be too unstable. I think it's just right there where it could probably use a little bit of weight for stabilization, sweet spot power, but it wasn't bad. I played with it stock so far. But if I took this 16 and made it 14, I have a hard time seeing why that'd be all right, you know?
Well, I mean, even when you said the numbers, the 6.31 twist weight for a wide body paddle is pretty, I mean, it's not great, but and not always does the numbers exactly correlate to how well the sweet spot is. But I could only imagine a 14 millimeter is going to be even lower than that, and which means it's going to have a little bit more twist in the hands, and even on a wide body, especially on a wide body, that's not what you want, right? So I can see why he would probably not be a huge fan of the 14 millimeter because, again, even edgeless already does not have the benefit of what a wide body typically has.
Yeah, and just measuring because like it's sometimes the measurements have a little variation in how they're reported or whatever. So it's just shy of 16 inches long. It's like 15.9, I would say, and then it's not quite 8 inches wide. So it's like 7.8, 7.9, something like that. So I don't know, on the border of standard wide body, whatever. But I think it plays well. It spins good. The surface is like it's raw carbon fiber, so it feels nice. I didn't take RPMs yet, but it spins about what you'd expect a normal paddle to spin. And then power was fine. Generating it myself, it doesn't like produce a ton of power on its own, but dang, very light. There are two things I think that reduce tennis elbow, in my opinion, and it's weight and vibrations. So a paddle like the Pulse X or any of the Pulse series, they take care of vibrations, but they're not super light. But this is both. So it reduces vibrations and it's super light. So probably optimal weight for tennis elbow folks, but not awesome in terms of like if you want a power paddle, not a power paddle. This is not the like 10 millimeter Black Ace. It's probably on the verge of like control and all chord or something like that, but. Overall,
Okay.
and I'll say also this. So this is one big downside before I forget. So this I think is exclusively offered through Pickleball Central. It's 10% off with the PBMed discount code. They're listing right now for $280, so that's a lot. 10% off, it's like $250 or something. If you're a person who has really bad tennis elbow and you haven't found the fix yet, this could be it. It's a great paddle. It has both the lightweight and the vibration dampening, but $250 is expensive. So, and it's ultra interesting. Don't get me wrong, but if those are the two things you want, I think at this point, those are probably the people I would recommend to get it. Otherwise, $250 might be a little much.
I completely agree.
Okay, so next we got a freaking stack of chorus paddles. So these guys, goodness man, they're on a roll, man. So I think they're looking to establish their baseline of like, these are our paddles, and find the one that's right for you, and this is what we got. And I think they've done a good job. So before we get into the specifics of the two series that we have here, overall, I think it's important to understand. So there's 4 main series in addition to there's the one OG shapeshifter and then the peculiar looking Supercourt that I really like. So there's now the Echo, and I'll throw a graphic on screen here. Matt made this, and I think it's actually pretty accurate. So you have the Echoes, the new shapeshifters, the Supercourts, and the Chorus Fires. So the names of those relate to their construction. EX is the extendeds, HX are the hybrid shapes, and SX are the standard shapes. In terms of construction, the Echo is kind of the more control-oriented, I'll say, and I'll get your opinion on this too. So these are T700 carbon fiber paddles, thermoformed. The new shapeshifters are 18K carbon fiber, also Gen 2. The Supercourts have carbon fiber, fiberglass, carbon fiber layering, Gen 2 thermoformed and whatnot. Those are different than the OG Supercourt, which I have here somewhere too. I'll hold that up. So this is when people like make jokes that it's a trainer paddle. So it's different than this. This is like 4 layers of carbon fiber.
Yeah.
The new Supercourts have different shapes, and they're carbon fiber, fiberglass, carbon fiber. And then the Chorus Fires, those of course are the Super Poppy power paddles, and they have the polyester carbon fiber weave with the fiberglass on the very front, a thin layer of fiberglass on the front. So ultra poppy.
Yeah. And then currently the Fires are all 14 millimeters, and all of the other 3 series are all 16 millimeters currently.
Yeah, and that's a good point. So especially the difference between the OG shapeshifter and the new shapeshifters is not necessarily placement for that particular model, but it's the type of fiberglass was changed to where it's activated easier and is a bit more poppy. So that's a good point, yeah. So that's mainly the difference I'd feel, is the new shapeshifters are more poppy than the OG shapeshifter.
Yeah. That's why you can't just assume that if a paddle has a layer of fiberglass in it, then it's going to play the same, because there's different types of fiberglass. There's different spots where you can put it in the layup. Some of these paddles are starting to get pretty interesting in how the layup, the technology that goes into the layup of the surfaces for the paddle is pretty crazy now.
Yeah, I agree. And you can't see 2 CFC layering systems and assume they're the same.
Exactly.
So let's talk about the Supercourts first.
Sure.
So we have the EX, which is the Supercourt elongated version.
Yep.
We have the HX, which is the Supercourt hybrid shape version, and then the SX, the Supercourt standard shape version. Instead of going through all the swing and twist weights of these, probably I'll just throw them on screen, or else I'll just probably be listing stuff for forever. But I'll highlight just a couple of things here and share with you that so it's interesting. All 12 of I just need to take a breath here. So instead of reading all the statistics for all these paddles, I'll be reading forever. I'll put them on screen, and I'll just highlight some of the good takeaways. So all of these are under 8 ounces. And then if you look at just their overall, maneuverability score of each of these three paddles. So the SX is 36, the HX is 50, and the EX is 51.
That's pretty crazy how the HX and EX are so similar, which also just goes to show why the HX is the best shape there is. But
oh, shut up, Cody, and your HX. No, I'm just kidding. The HX is good. You know what? Let's have you start with how you thought that they played. And then I'll share my thoughts on how they played since I've led the other two that since you did so far.
You're good. There is one other thing, and it's not just an optical illusion, but there is a flare. There's not the rounded edge top that you'll see, but there is a little bit of like a flare to the paddles, and it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, you can see that. Yeah, it does get a little bit wider towards the top.
And I didn't even notice it on this one, but Matt and I had a conversation. There's like a 0.1 of an inch difference between the widths at the bottom versus the top, and then it's a little bit more significant. It's a lot more significant on the SX. And every single picture I saw of the SX, I was thinking, you need to take the picture from directly above. You're taking it from below, so it looks like there's a flare. And then today I was like, no, there is actually a flare, and which goes to also the reason he did that, and it kind of showed when I was playing with it, and I didn't even think of why. The extra width at the top brings the sweet spot up more towards the top, so when you're playing with an SX, it almost feels like you're playing with the HX placement for where the sweet spot would be. So just one of those things, one of those little attention to detail things that Matt was thinking of when he was designing these paddles, which I think is really, really cool. Overall, like I said, my favorite still being the HX shape. And yeah, I just really like it. The Supercourt surprised me. I'll be honest. It has a good amount of power. Not quite fire level power. And I even played it stock. But yeah, it has some really good power on full drives. And then it's softer, not quite as soft as like the Echo, but it's still pretty soft on dinks and resets. And what I've been trying to do recently is on resets and counters is not be putting so much power behind them and kind of just letting the paddle do the work, and then aiming lower. So typically on a reset, the ball would kind of lob over the net and land in the kitchen, but more so just aiming lower, and then that way the ball's coming fast and low back, and a lot of the times they get kind of caught off guard on their follow-up shot. And I really enjoyed that with the Supercourt. Just one aspect of the game in particular that these paddles really stood out. And then it was so easy to go from defense to offense with these paddles. Like when you're resetting, and then you notice as soon as they start to have to hit from below the net, you can just run right in and pounce on that ball that gets left high.
Yeah, I agree. These surprised me. These surprised me a lot. I think if the OG shapeshifter was too soft and the chorus fires were too stiff, a little too poppy, like crisp poppy, that for some people, like these are it. These are awesome, dude. So like that fiberglass layer, it's plush on the outside when you hit it, so there's good compression, and then it pops super well. Like it's hard to describe. It's almost like in the way they feel, PaddleTech, Engage, Vatic Pro-esque in the sense that they have a compression and then a point where they stop, and then, but just a little bit more crisp than them, because they are thermoformed, but they still have raw carbon fiber. And man, the feel is great. We'll get to the Echoes in a minute, but it's almost a shame that we got them at the same time, because these really shined. These really shined for me.
And then this like the off-white eggshell or whatever, not even eggshell, I don't know colors. This is white, slightly off-white, not quite beige to me. With the brown gives off a like 70s 70s, 80s.
Do you
vibe.
like it? Do you like it?
I kind of like it. I kind of
Dude,
like
I
it.
I love it. I love
Yeah?
it. Like, and I do think with the I digress, but the old Supercourt, some people didn't like it, but I love it, dude.
Oh,
and
the color scheme. You like the color scheme?
yeah, I love this color scheme. Sorry, my camera did something weird.
You're good.
Yeah, I love the color scheme. I liked the EX better on the Fires for whatever reason, but for these, my favorite is the HX. I'm back to the hybrid shapes for these. But I will say another thing to note on these. So the twist weights are very good, and I think they're accurate in their depiction of sweet spot size. So 7.1 for the SX, so it's crossed that like 7, kind of threshold. And for Gen 2 paddle, that's really good. And then the HX is 6.77, so also very good in terms of numbers. And I'll say that does actually correlate to how it feels. It's pretty good. And then the EX is like normalish twist weight, normalish sweet spot. But I really jived with the HX. Great spin.
Yeah.
Way more poppy than the shapeshifters, but more of a pleasant feel than the Fires that I think more people are going to like. This is my favorite chorus paddle for sure.
Okay. I like that. Yeah, I almost feel like an easy assumption would be is the only paddle you've tried so far is one of the Fires, and you thought it was just a little too stiff, a little too poppy, and you could sacrifice a little bit of power. The Supercourt is right there, and it's it'd be such an easy transition to go from the Fire to the Supercourt.
Yeah, and I think it's just the Fire's on the extreme of feel of stiffness, and it's just not for everybody. But I'm gonna recommend this all the time, and the price is super good. So, like after codes, $108.
Yeah,
dude, you're gonna see these a lot. I think for that price, that's nuts. I would recommend these for $50 more.
Yeah, I'd hope to see these a lot more on the courts.
Okay, anything else before we do the Echoes?
Nothing I can think of.
Let's roll that into the Echoes because these are the other paddles that are upcoming for Chorus. The Echoes, as opposed to the carbon fiber, fiberglass, carbon fiber layering of the Supercourts. So these are T700 carbon fiber. They're also thermoformed, but these are more the control models. They also have the same 3 shapes. I'll just go ahead and put their numbers on screen here so I don't have to list all of them. But again, his goal of optimization of twist weight for stability was good. If you're just reading numbers, this is sometimes it's accurate, sometimes it's not. I'll say like a twist weight over 7 isn't quite. Like it may mislead you to thinking the sweet spot like on the SX, which has a twist weight of 7.08, to think it has a slightly bigger sweet spot than it does, in my opinion. But I think it's still a good sweet spot. I don't think it's crazy good. I think it's good. And for a paddle series, which the Supercourts were 108 after discount codes, and the Echoes will now be $99.
90,
yeah, $99, like under $100, which is a great deal for these paddles, by the way. They're good, but they play soft. What did you think of how they played, Cody?
They played, so if you wanted to think, oh, this is just a normal Gen 2 thermoformed, I would say these are on the softer side of a Gen 2 thermoformed paddle for sure. They super soft, and not to say that they don't have power, but they don't have a ton of pop. So if you have trouble leaving balls high, but you still want to be able to have that plow through power from the baseline while being able to have like super soft on dinks and resets and such, super soft. So I think if you have that problem with leaving pop-ups high, and you want that power still, these Echoes are wonderful for that.
Yeah, I agree.
Again, HX shape, and the color scheme, I actually really, really like the pretty simple, like black on white.
I like it.
I really like that.
I like the colors. Yeah, and the handle is black. They've got the Chorus like little logo at the bottom. I think they look good.
The EX has the little EX in the butt cap.
Oh, dang.
But the SX and the HX do not.
Inconsistency. Oh my gosh.
I've talked to Matt, and he's admitted the EX is his favorite shape, so I think there's just a little bit
That
of
sneaky dog.
shape bias going on.
Oh
I'm
my
telling
gosh,
you,
inconsistencies.
it's a thing. Shape bias is a thing, man.
That son of a gun. Of those, so this is going to be their control paddle. I think I had a hard time with the EX. I thought the sweet spot was a little too small and it didn't have enough power. But again, that's a bit subjective. I liked, of all these, I like the EX the most because I'm thinking if I want control, then I want the best of control. So I think that the standard shape version of this is the best. The hybrid's also pretty good, and the EX, I think you're losing too much sweet spot size, and not gaining enough power. That's what I think. But if you like an elongated paddle, then maybe.
So SX your favorite?
Yeah, of the shape, which is funny.
Okay.
So in the Fires, I like the EX.
You went,
in the Supercourt,
yep.
I like the HX, and then in the Echoes, I like the SX. So interesting.
What about shape? What was your favorite for shapeshifter? That'll be the tiebreaker.
I like the EX. I like the EX of those. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, I'm an EX fan then. Okay, you've asked.
Which is weird. That's the only the shapeshifter is the only EX.
It's almost a shame to review these right next side the Supercourts because I think those are just awesome, man. And these are good too.
Yeah.
But the Supercourts are just special. They're just awesome. So
yeah, if you and then again if you tried the Fire or tried the shapeshifter and you thought that you needed something a little bit softer, the Echoes are right there. And honestly, I would probably, if these were here when we had our top 100 paddles, these probably would have made my list.
Yeah, I think I'd have to think on that.
It would have been tough to leave them off.
Yeah, it would.
They
be
definitely
tough.
would have been an honorable mention, but they might have made my list.
Yeah, it would be tough to leave them off. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, ready for the next one?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't have that yet, so
okay, yeah.
all you.
Sadly, again, we have one more that hasn't made it your way yet. But this isn't a new paddle per se, I don't think. But it's the Zero Sapphire. This kind of happens. So whenever we release like a list, whether it's like top 5 under $100 or best budget power paddles, like, and we do good thinking. Like we think a lot about this and put a lot of thought. But just like paddle companies and paddles like come out of the woodwork and they're like, hey, I heard this. Like try this. And Dale from 60 is like, hey, I'm gonna send you this. See what you think. And so most of the time I'm like, after I get the paddles, I'm like, hey, thanks, but not, you're not going to upset my top paddles. This was one that I think would have shook it up. So the Sapphire, it's actually T300 carbon fiber, which in theory should be a little less rigid than T700. I'll get to that in a minute. But it's thermoformed. As far as numbers and metrics on this guy, let's see. So swing weight of 117, which, pretty good for an elongated shape paddle, which is what it is. Twist weight 6.27, again, kind of average-ish, maybe slightly above average for an elongated shape paddle stock, and a 13 millimeter paddle. I didn't say that.
Yeah.
Gross weight 8.1 ounces, balance point 240. On the maneuverability scale, 55. So right at average for overall how this paddle feels in your hand. And this is another one that surprised me. In general, for my personal preference, I think that most 60 paddles are a little soft for my liking.
Okay.
I like to play a little bit more aggressive, a little more poppy. Previously, my favorite of the 60 paddles was probably the 60 millimeter Infinity, Double Black Diamond Infinity. And it just spun well. It was great for control. I like the edge was made a little bit lighter. This is my new favorite 60 paddle. I think this is...
Of all 60 paddles.
Of all 60 paddles, it's my favorite. Yeah. More than the Double Black Diamond or the Ruby or any of those. And it's a much better price. So let me check on that. So it lists for like what, 140? Yeah. And after discount codes, it's 126. It's poppy.
Wow.
It hits hard. And for a 13 millimeter paddle, I think it's on the more stable side. And I think it has a better sweet spot than its twist weight might suggest. Now, if you're not having it on day or you hit a lot of edge shots, you probably will need to weight it up. But I say for its thickness and for an elongated shape paddle, dang man, like I played really, really consistent with this paddle. And thinking about our paddles that we put on our top budget power paddles,
Wow.
I'll probably swallow my pride a little and say that I would probably have picked this one more than those.
Really? So being the Sapphire, you would even put it in the power category
Yeah.
or
yeah,
near
and,
power?
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that because, yeah, in theory, I know Dale was talking about, it's like, oh, it's T300 and it's supposed to have lower tensile strength, right? So as you go
Yeah.
up in your Ts, T300, T700, T8, or whatever, it's supposed to get more strong and more stiff. So you would think that in theory, going down to the T300 would make it more plush feeling. But I don't know if it's the 13 millimeter thickness where like maybe I'm more accustomed to 16 millimeter paddles. I didn't think that. I thought it was like if, 1 to 100 are like 100 is the most stiff paddles. I would say it's probably a 60, so it's slightly on the more stiff side. But it's so nice, so crisp on the pop. Probably the most poppy paddle I tested on the day I had it out.
Interesting.
But very linear. It's not Gen 3 like. So for me, it was easy to control. I played good pickleball with it, man. Spun well, great drive through power. Like I think it hits a certain sweet spot of nice crisp pop, good drive through power, good spin, but not too heavy. I really
Interesting.
liked this paddle. This is my favorite 6-0 paddle by far.
Wow. I definitely need to get my hands on one of those then. Because
Yeah.
that's blowing my mind right now.
All right, you heard it, Dale. If when Cody gets
That's-
it, Cody will make
that's-
some. Cody will give us his
Phew.
thoughts and see if we can corroborate and if you feel the same. Because there's some good
Yeah.
6-0 paddles that accommodate a lot of people, but I think particularly for the advanced level people or even advanced intermediates and people who like to play aggressive, this is a very good option.
Wow. Because that's less expensive than their other paddles as well.
Yeah, I don't. So they have the quartz, which is like under $100. That's like pure control.
Oh, sorry, that one. Yeah.
Yeah, but the other ones are much more expensive from what I can recall. I would definitely put this in the budget category, and is probably one of my favorite budget paddles, which
That's awesome.
is now on today's note alongside the Echo and the Supercourts, but both of those being more plush feeling, and this being a bit more aggressive, a bit more crisp feeling. So,
Okay.
yeah, very good paddles. Very good paddle in the Sapphire too. So, okay, so next we have, so this is going to be a little bit of just a first look and a punchline statement from Cody because I just got mine. Cody's had a little bit more time on his, but we also have in our hands as to date the Enhanced Banger. I'll say first off, without having played with this, the banger aspect of this is its look. There's not that many purple paddles out there that I think look good. One being like the Pickleball Apes paddles. This thing looks sick, dude. Like it's got, I don't know if you tell on screen, but it's got these like crack looking things in the face. The handle, it's edgeless, right? It looks good and
Yeah.
it feels good in the hand. Give us your one liner. Look forward to next
So-
week's. This is what we'll have for you. Type statement, Cody.
When I was testing, I tested out the Banger and I tested out the Supercourts and the Echoes, and it was hard for me to put this down, and I really enjoyed it. And a couple of people even said they said that this does not play like an edgeless paddle. I also point out a couple of things something that I really like
Yeah.
is that they have these kind of like preset spots to put their weights, which I think is really cool. Yeah, I think that's one little touch because it's so hard. I spend minutes trying to align the weight perfectly to make sure that I don't have weight higher up on one side versus the other. And so I have to have those to say, okay, here, or as a reference, if you're deciding to put it on somewhere different, you can put it at the top or something. Anyways, I think having that as a reference on the side is really cool. But this was a difficult paddle to put down, and I honestly didn't even realize it was 14 millimeter when I started playing with it because it didn't play like a 14 millimeter. But here's my one-liner, and I'm probably going to get...
You're way more than one line
decent-
at this point, Cody.
I know, but I wanted to set it up, but I'm probably going to get a lot of flack. This, to me, is what the 𝐋𝐢𝐧𝐤𝐬 007 should have been. And I'll leave it at that.
Okay, I have questions about that. I played with
Yeah.
the 007. Haven't played with this yet. So let's leave that for next week. I am curious what you mean, but I'm not going to ask.
And
So
I'll
we'll
put
get
more
to that next
time. I don't have one in hand, but I have a friend who's a Selkirk advocate, and I will get my hands on I'll put more time on the 007 because I was not a huge fan of it, and I really enjoyed this.
Dang. I'm intrigued. Okay, I'll
Yeah.
hit the courts with this. We'll come back and cover it in the next episode. All right, that wraps us up then. We've gone through a stack of paddles. Hope it was helpful. Hope it was fun for us.
Yeah.
So thanks everybody for watching the fourth iteration, the fourth episode of the 𝐵𝒊𝒔𝒄𝒐𝒖𝒏𝒕� podcast. I'm your host, Dustin, with my co-host, Cody.
See you next time.